Morning, gang. Happy Sunday morning. So, as usual, I was reading all your comments on yesterday's video, and of course, the disparity of what we all pay for the same stuff really came to light. So, it was kind of interesting just seeing people saying, oh, yeah, I get it a lot less expensive, a lot more expensive. But I guess that's kind of the whole point of that exercise to see what things go, things cost in different parts of the country. So, the more and more of us do this, so I'm hoping, those of you that have channels can do the same thing next time you go to the store. We can kind of all see what's going on. But so I was reading through the comments, and there was one comment that was made by one of you guys that said, I remember when $30 would fill a cart, but then $5 an hour was a really good wage and well above the minimum. And that got me thinking. Scary, right? So many of us have all thought about how this excess spending is going to get paid for. The government's printing money like it's a Xerox machine. Now, if you haven't watched Prepper Now's video Intelling It Like It Is from February 5th, you got to go check it out. It's hilarious. Okay, he does one of these every day. But that one was really, really key on kind of what I'm talking about here. But with all this money printing, inflation's sure to come, and somehow, someday, all these loans are going to have to get paid off, okay? The government's mortgaging our descendants' future to pay for their lavish lifestyles and insanely idiotic ideas today. I don't remember whose video it was, but a week or so back, someone had put out a video about what it would take for the U.S. to get carbon neutral by 2050. And the only way to do it was if we brought a new nuclear facility online every day for the next 30 years. That in itself explains how stupid these ideas are that Washington and the World Economic Forum are rolling out. Okay. So, we the people, the preppers, the homesteaders, and the like, need to figure out, as we always do, how we're going to offset the damage being done today to future generations of our own family. Okay. Y'all know how I love to correlate history to today's life, so I want to take a look at something. Now, back when my family came to the U.S., and I'm pretty sure most of you can say the same, many generations of the family stayed in the same house. Grandparents, parents, children, sometimes aunts and uncles too, all shared the same domicile. They were in a new country and knew little, if any, English. They worked primarily in menial jobs, and some of them even started little businesses. We all know why the New York Police Department was so heavily Irish. It was the only job they could get because most businesses had signs on their door that said Irish need not apply. Okay. So these new legal immigrants took whatever job or jobs they could find to put a roof over their family's head and food in their bellies. Okay. But every one of them thought, my kids will have a better life. They won't have to do this. I'll make sure of it. Okay. And that's kind of something inherent within Americans. We all want our kids to do better than we do. Okay. Back then, education was highly regarded. Parents made sure their kids learned English and did well in school. They encouraged them to learn skills that would allow them to have a better lot in life than they did. Though for many of them, just being in the U.S. was a dramatic improvement on their lot in lives. Okay. So over a generation or two, people began to realize the American dream. After World War II, home ownership skyrocketed. Home ownership skyrocketed. We'll get that one out. This was vastly helped by the government offering to help returning GIs in buying a home. People were able to move out of the cities and suburbs became a thing. Families started to be able to spread out a bit. No longer did everybody live in the familial home, or apartment. The kids got married. They were able to buy a home of their own. The American dream had been born. A house, 2.2 kids, and a car in the driveway. Now, in the 1950s, the average home in the U.S. cost $7,400. The average household salary was $2,990. All right. What's funny is years ago when my grandparents died, we found the old mortgage coupons and receipts in a trunk in the house. My grandmother saved everything, okay? But they had a house that they bought in the 40s on the south side of Chicago, 55th and Pulaski for anybody that knows the area, okay? The mortgage coupon was $38 a month. Now, they lived in that house till the 1970s when they died, okay? But think about this for a minute. If the house cost $7,400 and you made $2,990, that means the house cost about 2.5 times your annual salary, okay? Now, this was also a time where mom stayed home too, so this was all on one income. Now, there was no internet, no cell phone, no cable TV, so your bills were a lot less too, okay? So let's move up to the 70s, when I was a kid, all right? Now the average home price was $17,000 and the average salary was $8,734. Now the price of a home is only twice your average annual salary, so it's actually come down, okay? In comparison to salaries at least. TV is more commonplace, but still no internet, no cell phone, no cable. So your bills are still relatively low comparatively. I remember growing up as a kid, we went outside and played. It wasn't doing this all day. All right. Now, let's move to the 1990s. Now the average home price is $79,100 and the average salary is $29,943. Now your house costs 2.6 times your annual salary again. So we're back to just a bit higher ratio than we were in the 50s. But now we've added internet bills, cable TV bills. Some of us had cell phones, probably 2 cars, and daycare, because mom's now working too, because we're still trying to get ahead. So the bills have gone up to run the household, and on a percentage basis, pretty substantially, okay? Welcome to 2020, okay? Now the average home price is $295,300. The average salary is $51,916.27 as of June 2020, okay? Do the math. A house now costs 5.68 times the average salary. That is more than double what it cost in the 1990s. And we still have cable TV and internet and cell phones and 2 cars and daycare, okay? And you wonder why we hear all the stories about 30-somethings living at home and in mom's basement, okay? The average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in the United States in 2020 was $1,621. Now you can see even better. Now, of course, there are more expensive places and less expensive places to live, but for the most part, local wages correlate pretty well. Costs more, wages are up, costs less, wages are down. New York, San Francisco, wages are higher. Housing costs are less down south, wages are lower, okay? Remote working is very beneficial because people can work for big city companies and live in rural areas. Now, I do this, so this helps a lot. I have higher wages because I get paid city wages, but I live in the remote area, okay? Granted, of course, my job is kind of whether it happens every day, okay? But going back to where I started, with all this borrowing by the government and the cost of housing skyrocketing while wages stay stagnant, what happens to your kids and your grandkids, okay? You see, eventually the government debt bubble is going to burst, and the loans are going to get called in the form of higher taxes, probably, which the kids are going to have to pay, okay? Now remember, from 1943 to 1964, the top tax bracket was over 90%, okay? Now, do the math. You make $100,000. Okay, granted, this wouldn't be the top tax bracket, but just think about this. If you made $100,000 in today's money and you were at 90% tax, you get to take home $10,000. Yippee, okay? Now, unless your kids are making buku bucks, they're not going to pay that much. But still, it is possible for taxes to go that high. They have in the past, okay? Which leads me back to the American dream. Home ownership, a couple of kids and a car. Well, how's that going to be possible for your descendants? And guess what, guys? That home that you live in now is probably going to be their home in the future. Maybe they sell it. Hopefully not if you have some land. If you're on a postage stamp lot, maybe it's time to buy some land somewhere. You see, that's the other thing that's going to drive people to the city, like the World Economic Forum wants. Nowhere else can people afford to live. They can't afford a car, so they'll need to walk everywhere. No houses because the population density is too great. Think I'm kidding? Okay. Remember, Mrs. Pinball is from Moscow. 18 million people in that city. All right. Very few houses. Everyone lives in apartments, like cattle, all herded into one place and literally living on top of one another. Some people own cars, not a lot. Okay. Everything is done by public transportation and by walking. Okay. So good luck growing food or raising livestock. There's no land to do it on. It's a concrete jungle, just like New York or Chicago. You have to go outside the city to have any grass to walk on for the most part, let alone raise crops or raise animals. Okay. So here, if home prices are 5.68 times your salary now, and remember, interest rates are historically low, imagine what happens in another 30 years. If inflation keeps climbing and home prices keep going up, but wages don't, which is kind of what we're seeing right now, okay, that's going to make homes even harder for them to buy. Now, think if we go back to interest rates like they were in 1981, okay? Mortgage rates were at 17%. What caused that? Runaway inflation. Sound familiar? Okay. Guess what's coming, guys? Here's the scariest part, all right? Today, and this is kind of where you need to think about this. If you bought a house, the average price of a house today, like I said earlier, is $295,300. Okay, so if you mortgage $295,300 at 17%, which is what the rates were in 1981, your mortgage payment, principal and interest only, okay, no insurance, no property taxes escrowed, all right, your mortgage payment would be $4,210 a month. That's $50,520 a year. Now, if you remember, the average salary in 2020 was $51,916.27. So, to pay your taxes and insurance, eat your electric bill, water bill, whatever, gasoline, buy a car, whatever, you have a little more than $600 a year. Okay. That's where we're at, guys. That's right now. If interest rates were at 17%, that's exactly what would be happening today. Okay. This is the slippery slope we're on with all these stimulus checks, guys. Inflation's coming. Okay. We all know it. Higher interest rates are coming. They have to. Okay. We can't go any further down, if you will. And higher taxes are coming. The government's got to pay for all of this somehow. That's not an if, okay? That's guaranteed based on the path we're on. If you want to leave some sort of legacy for your kids and your grandkids to make sure that, as I said earlier, my kids will have a better life, they won't have to do this, I will make sure of it, okay, like our ancestors did, you need to get that house paid off as fast as you can. That's gonna be your legacy. That's gonna be how you make your life or make life better for your kids. You'll have provided them a place to live. That's the extent of where we're at, guys, okay? If this isn't prepping for SHTF, I don't know what is. Pinball out.